All right, good evening. I'm calling to order the City Council special meeting Tuesday, August 16th, 2022. If I'll have our city clerk do our roll call, please.
Mayor Kaylee Clark.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Amy Lamb.
Here.
Councilmember Karen Howe.
Here.
Councilmember Kent Treen.
Present.
Councilmember Pamela Stewart.
Here.
Councilmember Rituja Andapure.
Here.
Councilmember Rosine O'Farrell.
Present.
Great, thank you. Deputy Mayor, do you mind doing the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. To the flag. Great, thank you. And I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Seconded.
All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, by a vote of 7-0, we are good to proceed. So we have one item, the approval of the 228th Avenue Overlay Construction Contract Award. Is Audrey on? She's coming on right now, so Aaron, if you want me to pass it to you or just straight to Audrey.
Yeah, we're going to go straight to Audrey. So we just have that one item for the agenda tonight.
Cool.
Go ahead, Audrey.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Council. I first wanted to say thank you for the extra time this evening. I know it's in the middle of your recess. We just wanted to make sure that we could provide a quick project update for the 228th overlay and an opportunity to award contract should Council decide to go that way. With me this evening is our city engineer, Doug Van Gelder, as well as our senior project engineer who is managing the project, Jim Gruber. They have a very short presentation for you, and then we will look for direction from Council. So Jim, whenever you are ready.
Okay, and you guys can hear me tonight, right? All right, good. Zoom and I don't always get along. I'm gonna share my screen here quick. You guys can see that now? The presentation?
Not quite.
Now you should.
Yes.
All right, great. Yes, good evening, Council. And like Audrey said, thank you so much for taking time out of your week to talk to us about this. I'll start by moving the slide forward. There. So this is just a quick repeat of the current motion that was in the agenda bill, moving to authorize the city manager to enter into contract and move forward with the project overlay 228 and a 10% construction contingency. Like you probably saw in the agenda bill, there is some risk with that, funding related versus project timing and project quality. And so those are the big issues to consider tonight. So quick background, this project has 100% funding from a grant for the National Highway Performance Grant. It covers up to $1,530,000. The project the construction side of it is over our engineer's estimate, roughly $328,000. And what we've found out in working with the state after we opened up bids is that there is some additional grant funding available through COVID relief. However, we have to get that application in and an amendment to our agreement completed by September 20th, and that will require federal approval for that amendment also. So we have three options essentially to consider. One is that we move forward with the project right now, awarding the contract, and then continuing to work with the state to secure those additional grant funds. Some of the risk with that is that we may, if we can't secure those funds, then we would have to move forward covering the additional cost with local agency dollars. Option two, we can delay the project award until we have additional funding secured and then move forward with the process. If we can't get the funding, then we could always just reject the bids and rebid next year. And then option three is just to reject bids right now and re-advertise in the spring. So some quick pros and cons about option four moving forward right now is that we can we can continue to move forward, hopefully getting a project completed in 2022, completed this year, and we won't have to rebid the project next year. We'll be able to move forward with newly scheduled work. Some of the cons with that is that we're at risk of having to fund that higher construction cost with local dollars, roughly $330,000. There is also a risk that we could come into bad weather and it possibly have to maintain the street in unfinished condition through the winter. That would be worst case, but you know, we would be, with this option, we would be probably getting in this construction starting in September, but going through October, where, you know, October, we always, it's hit and miss, whether we have bad weather that throws us into bad winter weather. And so that's our big risk, that we're coming up on the edge of weather. Option 2 is working to secure the grant before we award the project to the contractor, which that case we could guarantee the savings of the $300,000 that the construction cost is over. And we wouldn't have to rebid the project. And so some of our cons that we face with that is that with weather limitations, we would likely need to suspend the work until next year, construction season of next year, because we just can't, we lose too much of our dry weather days waiting for that guarantee of the grant funding. So the one benefit of that, though, is that it's much more of a guarantee that we can have a better product when we're done. We would also, we would know that we have the grant dollars secured before we move forward with it. So the one negative is that we end up with having to rebid, or that we would end up working, this work would end up sort of impacting our work plans for next year. So, and then option 3 is just straightforward. We just reject the bids right now and rebid it next summer in the hopes that we get a better bid price for the work. And that's it. Those are our last 3 options. I guess I just pause here quickly with that and see if you guys have any questions, additional concerns, what you're thinking for how to move forward.
Great. Councilmember Stewart?
Yeah, so best case scenario, if we approve this and started right away, when would this likely begin? You said it would happen in September and October. So are we thinking like the first week of September?
No, we have at least 2 solid, optimum timeline would be that we have at least two solid weeks of paperwork, and that's if all of the paperwork exchanged between getting the contract, going back and forth with the contractor for insurance, bonds, getting the contract signed. That's at least 2 weeks just to get that done. And then we could issue notice to proceed quickly, and then it would be on the contractor to start scheduling their work against the clock. And so optimum time would probably be 2 to 4 weeks to get the contractor going, or get to that notice to proceed where we can really push the contractor to do the work.
Okay, so we're basically going to be starting, if we went that route, right around the same time that all 3 of the high schools along that strip of roadway begin.
That's correct. Yeah. If any one of, well, yes, this option to move forward quickly and try to take care of the work this year would result in the work happening during the school year this year. If we were to move forward with option 2, it would probably mean that we would have some impact on the end of the school year next year.
So I was going to say, if we go back to option 2, you said that the costs would be known. So does that mean we could sign a contract this year with the grant funding we have for sure, and lock in the price that we have? We could continue to seek additional grant funding, and we could schedule the work next year?
Yeah, we've been working with the contractor and the scheduling issues that we're up against, and the contractor is comfortable with delaying the project, essentially initiating the contract, and then doing a contract suspension until spring of next year so that we don't have to worry about the bad weather window hitting us at the end of the project this year.
And if we did do it, whether it's the fall of this year or the spring of next year, if we're doing it while school is in session ever, do we have provisions in the contract that we don't start the work until after school starts and we end it before school gets out?
We have our reduced traffic hours for lane closures on 228th, and so the hours are from 9:30 to 3 for lane closures.
No, so high schools get out at what, 2 and 2:30, I think? So that would be during school release times in the afternoon. I mean, I think the 9 a.m. start would probably be okay, but the 3 o'clock end would create quite a bit of a snarl when those high schools let out. I mean, it's a brief moment. It's a brief 15 or 20 minutes, but it's a tight one. So that would be my only concern. I'd be more inclined to do it in the spring than in the fall because we see a sudden spike in traffic when everybody comes back to work from vacation season and schools start. So the first couple of weeks of September are usually some of our worst traffic times. And I just don't think people need that kind of additional headache and stress along that section of 228th. So I'm more inclined to go with an option 2 than an option 1. Thanks.
Deputy Mayor Lamb?
How likely are we to get the funding, the additional $328,000?
The state, our local programs engineer at the state is pretty confident that we can move forward with it based on and secure that funding based on the bids that we've received.
Okay, my preference is to do option 2 simply because the $328,000 is a significant amount of money. This, as is noted in the bill, it's a rehabilitation project and there's a flexible schedule. And I think since we are so close to the end of the year, and you guys had said it's better to do it during the summer. So I go with option 2 for that reason. Thank you.
All right, do I have any other hands? Anyone else? Councilmember Stewart?
Sorry, one last question. Is there any possibility of pushing it to the summer of next year, like right after school gets out?
We haven't really discussed moving it that far back with the contractor. There's a possibility. I'd say it's just a small possibility. And it's
Okay.
something that we could certainly pursue with the contractor. I just don't know how receptive they would be to that.
Okay, that would be my preferred option, just because, again, that section of 228th is pretty traveled from school traffic. So if that's at all a possibility, I think that should be our preference.
Hey, Doug, can you mute?
I can try.
Oh, okay.
I'm on my phone here, and so I don't see. Here we go. Okay.
Cool, thank you. Sorry, it just sounded like somebody was outside. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions? Oh, yeah, Councilmember O'Farrell?
I just was wondering, when you say the spring, what month in spring are we talking about? Is that February, March, April, or do we have a set date for that?
The typical cold weather season where there's limitations goes from October to April. And so it would be starting in the April, at the earliest, it would be in that April, May timeframe.
Yeah, I think, April, May, that sounds to me okay. It certainly would be, like as Councilmember Stewart mentioned about knowing when schools get out. I know Skyline gets out like at 5 to 3, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and they're in longer on a Wednesday because they have, they go in later. So I think they get out around 4 on a Wednesday. And Eastlake probably have slightly different times than that. But so it'd be worth kind of keeping that into account. But I think that time of the year, it's like at the tail end of the school year. That sounds like a better time to start, I think. Yeah, so I would be more inclined to go with option 2.
Cool. Councilmember Howe?
Thank you, Jim.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to double check. Is there an expiration date on the federal funding?
It is still a couple of years out. So
Okay.
next year, postponing to next year won't be a problem.
Okay, I just wanted to double check.
Yeah.
I was sure you already knew that was the right answer. I just had to know. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other hands. So I am also inclined for option 2. I think at this point, as long as that doesn't, I'm not hearing any real concerns from you and your team, Audrey, unless you have anything, but kind of makes most sense to me. I'm not sure if anyone else has any thoughts. And then, do you need an official vote on this?
Yeah, I was going to make a
Right?
motion.
That's why we're here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, I move.
Oh, Councilmember Stewart, I'm sorry. If it helps, you don't have to use this motion, but we had some advanced motions in here for all the different options just in case. So
All right. I
This is-
move that we authorize the city manager to delay the contract award. Actually, is that,
Yeah, it's not a delay.
I think what we're saying is that we authorize the city manager to enter into the contract to lock in the costs, but delay the start in the hopes that we can secure the additional funding and schedule it at a more convenient time, preferably after school gets out, but in this late spring, if that is the only option, with a 10% construction contingency as well.
I will second that. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Would you like to discuss?
I think we already did.
Any
Thanks.
other discussion? All right.
Just want to make a quick comment, sorry. So I think this project is really important for our community, right? I think, maintenance of roads and keeping them safe for our community is really important. So I just want us to be cautious about, what happens when we go into next year. And if we cannot secure that funding, I want us to be thinking about what we would do then. And then also about the additional cost. I think costs are rising, supply chain, we have supply issues. So that is continuously going to be adding to our bottom line. So I just want us to be very aware of that and know that, again, making sure that we're utilizing our grant money, pursuing more grant opportunities for the remainder of the funding that we don't have. I think that should just be with full force as we are going ahead, even though we want to be very cognizant of the impact that the project might have if we were to start right at the start of the school year. So I think we are very aware of that and cognizant, but that this is a very important project for our community that we should go ahead with. So thank you.
Councilmember Trine?
Yes, my question is for clarification on the motion. My question is on clarification on the motion. Would that also include that last line that was on that motion that said that if additional funding is not secured, then the city manager would then reject the bids? Or I didn't hear that being stated by the motion, so. Are we including if additional grant funding cannot be secured, the city manager is authorized to reject all bids for the 228th Avenue overlay construction project? Is that part of the motion that was made? Because you also added in here that it would take into consideration the school information too. So there was some additions and then seemed to be a subtraction. So I'm not very clear on what the actual motion is on the table.
So no,
Councilmember Stewart?
I did not include intentionally that line, because I believe my exact wording was in hopes that we secure the additional federal funding. So we're going to enter into the contract, which means we will be obligated to that money whether we get the federal funding or not. So the goal is to get it, to save the money, but to Councilmember Indipuri's point, this is an important project and we need to lock in on it. And I believe I heard, just for clarification, I believe I heard that we can lock in on the current costs, so we don't have to worry about the cost rising because we will lock in on the contract now. Can we get confirmation of that as well?
That's correct. And I think that essentially what you've clarified is is essentially what the motion is in the agenda bill to move forward with that.
So, yeah, it is
Okay, now I'm
different
hearing
than the
two
PowerPoint
things.
slide.
Yeah, it is not what's
Yeah.
on the screen. I did not say what is on the screen.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So you might
it
want to
is
take that down.
different.
Because that's not what the motion is. So the motion
Turn
is,
to our city
Yeah.
attorney, one second.
Well, I'm just
You're on.
wondering if it would be helpful for our city clerk to read back what she heard the
Thank you.
motion.
sure.
Thank you.
I heard to authorize the city manager to enter into contract with the lowest responsible bidder, Lakeside Industries, for 228th Avenue overlay project and administer a 10% construction contingency using option 2 to delay the project award until additional funding can be secured.
And to
And-
schedule it next year. Yeah.
Sorry, just, and preferably a start time in late April or at the end of the school year.
Yeah. And just to clarify, it would be preferring that it start after the school year.
After the school year.
But late spring would be acceptable
Okay,
if
so
that's the only
reverse
option.
that, okay.
Yep.
I heard both, so, okay.
Thank you, Lita. That's all.
Great, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, does anyone else want to speak to the motion on the floor? All right, all those in favor of what our city clerk lovely just read back to us, yeah, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, by a vote of 7-0, we will go with option 2. And I don't think we have anything else. Aaron, do you have anything? Great. I'll entertain a
adjourn.
motion, okay? Move to adjourn, second. I second that. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, 7-0, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Audrey. Thank you,
Thank
Jim.
you.
And Doug.
Thank you.
Thank you, council.